It's live! How are you doing, everyone? Welcome back to the Cult of Cantona, your Irish Manchester United podcast. I am Paul Butler Lennox. I'm joined today by Mystic Dec McDonagh and a very, very special new host, Brian Casey. You may know him from the Green Devils podcast, an excellent Manchester United podcast. Also an Irish Manchester United podcast. Brian, you're very welcome along. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
Good, top of the range. I could have done without losing to Wolves last week and just totally destroying the party atmosphere from the week before. But yeah, good. I suppose just for our audience, I'll start just by asking you, Brian, like how did you become a United fan, and do you want your money back?
Yeah. So I don't know, I suppose whether it's a misfortunate to be born in 1981. So I grew up watching football, kind of obviously back in those days there wasn't much football on the telly. So how I kind of got into it was back in 1990. Man United came over to Ireland. You might remember they came to Waterford to face Waterford United at the time in Kilcone. And I was playing for a local team at the time, and we were asked to go up and help spread grass seed on the pitch to get it ready for United coming over. And as a thank you, then we all got tickets to the game. So obviously, then went to that, and sure, yeah, that was I kind of fell in love straight away, almost, And it was kind of, because it was 1990. It was obviously the perfect time to kind of get following the team more so. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, we were just starting to get into that successful period. So
yeah, crest of a wave type stuff. It's almost like when all of those people started supporting Man City recently.
Not quite.
You're very welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Dec, how's things? You look knackered.
Working hard, hardly working. I was actually at that game in 1990 in Kilcone as well. Got to meet the team. Got on the team bus. The benefits of your dad being a guard in Waterford and on duty minding the bus. So I got to meet a few famous faces that day after the game. Always good to meet United players and see a good, decent game.
Oh, wow. Jesus, talk about coincidences. But they put you to work anyway, laying the grass seed.
Yeah.
So look, loads to talk about. I mean, what a week that just absolutely characterizes what it's like to be a Man United fan. Huge highs, and then a bipolar low, then days later, where you're just like, why do I keep allowing these people to do this to me? First of all, I suppose the Wolves game. What was all that about? I mean, it did start with a reasonably strong team. Say 80% of the starting 11 were there. So, what went wrong?
For me, there was no intensity in the game. They seemed to be controlling it for the majority of the match. But as with everything this season, in front of the goals where we're being let down, decision making in front of the goal, knowing to stick the ball in the net, and that's how we're leaving teams easy. We've lost the fear factor in Old Trafford before. Teams were beaten on the way to the stadium. We don't have that anymore. Every team seems to think if they put it up to us at Old Trafford, they're going to get a result. And unfortunately, this season, a lot of them have. And after the emotion of the Thursday night, I would have thought it would have carried into the Wolves game, but there was nothing, not a bit carried over. I mean, I can't understand how the players couldn't have been on a high after that late winner. But that's our season. Unfortunately, the only thing we have to hope for this season is we win the next 3 games in Europe and get Champions League football.
Yeah. It was, I don't mind not leaving with 3 points as long as we take their best player next season. How do we feel about Matheus Cuniha? Do you know much about him? I'm sure you do, Brian.
I wouldn't know a hell of a lot about him, but from what I've seen, he looks like he will slot straight into our starting 11, being honest, in one of those 10 positions. He's definitely contributing goals, which is, as we've many United fans have said over the past few months and years, like that's where we're lacking at the moment. So, and he creates a hell of a lot as well for other people. It's not just contributing to the goals. He's bringing assists as well. So, I like that he has that bit of an edge to him. I know there's a lot of people that don't like it. There's the so-called disciplinary record that he supposedly has, but like, we need that passion on the pitch again. It's been lacking for years. Like, obviously Bruno is the one that's bringing the passion, and he's getting slated for it, throwing his hands up in the air. But as I always say, Cristiano Ronaldo was like that when he was here, the kind of almost tantrum player. But you need that passion on the pitch, and I think he'd be an excellent addition to the squad.
Yeah,
I like the madness of him.
Yeah, he hasn't
missing that. I go like, don't worry, I'll cut out these awkward pauses. That's why we're not going live. So yeah, I have to say, from what I was aware of him, but again, it's one of those players that are clearly doing the business for a mediocre club, but question marks have to be raised whether or not, because we've seen it, with other players that are doing well at other clubs and then come to United and then they can't quite cut it. The pressure of the biggest club in the world. Like as Dec always says, every day is a United News Day. Can they handle that amount of pressure and just the whirlwind and hurricane of the United negative press? Ultimately, is what it is. I mean, is he a kind of a Bruno Guimaraes type, Brazilian import, or is he? I mean, he does have a bit of bite. He gets goals. His goal returns are not what you'd expect, but he's not an out and out goal scorer. He's a striker, so I'm encouraged by him. I don't mind the whole disciplinary thing. You take all Roy Keane's red cards for all of his good performances, so that comes with it as well. I don't care about that. You'd like to see him. Any player gets sent off in the last 10 minutes if he's going to win us a game 5 minutes before that. So all the signs are there and the heart is there. So yeah, let's see where he goes. What about, we're linked to practically everyone, and apparently there's like 2 or 3 deals coming through. How do we feel about Liam Delap? I think the problem with that is it's not getting any fan jumping up and down that he's coming. Can he be a good player? Yeah, he's got everything he needs, but I'm worried that the pressure of United on just his shoulders, we'll end up with another Highland incident. I think we definitely need a more experienced striker coming in. There's no point going for players with massive wages. They're talking about Osimhen. But his wage package seems to be a bit crazy, so I think that's what's putting Ineos off. They want to get away from the kind of deals that we did before, where we're bringing in players on mega contracts, mega salaries. He's a decent player, don't get me wrong, but he's not playing for a United type of team at the moment, is he?
No, I go along with that. There's I do like Osimhen, and have been keeping a bit of an eye on him because we've been linked to him for a couple of seasons, not just this season. So I've been watching him. He's tearing up the Turkish league, but then again, he's tearing up the Turkish league like an overweight kid is tearing up Turkish delights. But that doesn't mean that he can cut it there. There's a touch of the Adebayor about him, and I mean that positively. When Adebayor was playing well, he has that athleticism. He's kind of slight as well. I do like him. He's a goal scorer. He scores over. Like, he's a proper forward. He scores all sorts of goals with his head, overheads, bicycle kicks. He's a flair for the spectacular. Which United needs. We need someone to come in and be absolutely Billy Big Bollocks and go, give me the ball. because we haven't had that for a couple of years. We haven't had someone apart from even Bruno. Although he does that, he does it much more humbly. You know, we need someone to come in and go, "This is my club," a la Ibrahimovic. You know, and I think Liam Delap won't do that. He'll come in, and there's a very serious danger of him doing an Evan Ferguson next year and just disappearing. You know, like Highland. That'd be my concern. I mean, my preference as a football fan and as a United fan would be to get a proven goal scorer in. I would say like Lewandowski, who's still doing it at 36, just for a season or two, and do a Van Persie, bring someone in just to, you know, give Hoyland the confidence back if he doesn't go out on loan. I do think he'll go out on loan if we buy 2 strikers in the window, in the summer window. I think Hoyland will go off for a while just to get his head together, start scoring goals again, and then come back. In my opinion, but a Harry Kane or a Lewandowski or an Osherman, but that may not happen, would be my preference. Just so like Lewandowski, who's done it all. I mean, look at his Wikipedia stats. For every club that he's played for, he's just banged in goal after goal after goal after goal, and he's merciless. And he could still do that at Premier League level, I think, especially if he was, you know, starting and coming off, you know. And bringing on the young lads then, give them 45, 50 minutes every game. Anyone catch your eye, lads?
I think for me...
I've been saying for seasons, Kane.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to get him now, though. But, and again, it's the wages are going to be probably too high. Obviously, I suppose there's an obvious choice would be Gyökeres. You know, given that he knows Amram, he knows his system. But again, if United don't win the Europa League this season and we're not in Europe next year, it's going to limit any options that we have available to us. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to be looking at Oshiman, Gyökeres, Benjamin Šeško, you know, Lewandowski. They're probably not going to move to United without European football. There's a name, I'll throw it out, but there's a name that you might have seen some stuff on social media over the last couple of days as an option for 1 year. Jamie Vardy. Would you take him?
If he scored that goal like he scored against Liverpool on the half volley from, like, you know, in 2016, you take him tomorrow.
Like he's going to be available on a free. You know.
What age is Vardy?
What?
What age is Vardy?
He's 36, I think, or 37. I could even be older. I could be 38. Look, Ronaldo's still doing it at 40, isn't he? And Ronaldo doesn't drink 3 cans of Red Bull before training like Vardy does. So.
Well, yeah.
and smoke 20 cigarettes. Apparently, he's a smoker as well.
I don't think I'd be putting Vardy in the same sentence as Ronaldo now. I think there's
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Two different types of players. Like, I mean, he's bullish, but I mean, no, I wouldn't take him even for a year. I think we need to get away from that. The only one that has ever come to us short term and done good was Ibrahimovic, and I wouldn't even put Vardy in the same sentence as him.
It's an interesting discussion, though. I mean, does he still have a lot to offer? You know, obviously he still wants to try and look. Let's break this down. I mean, the man has won the league. He practically won the league for Leicester that year. Now, it was a long time ago, granted. The FA Cup, you know, and that glorious charity or community shield as well. He won. So, you know, he is a proven goal scorer. He hasn't played. He's been injured on and off this year. By all accounts, he's supposed to be the life and soul of every party, you know, and great for team spirit. And that's what United have been kind of missing. So if you're looking at it, you know, because United look at it from these things, like they're trying to buy the right characters to play for the club as well, you know. So from their point of view, they may be looking at Vardy and going, okay, he's still playing reasonably well. He is someone that could come off the bench a la Solskjaer and grab us a winner, which we couldn't buy a goal in a lot of games last season. Is he worth a punt where you're only paying him 50 grand a week, or 100 grand a week, whatever, you know, 100 and whatever?
even a pay as you play contract, you know.
Because Vardy, I think I admire his loyalty, but you'd have to say that, you know, maybe he's thinking that he's had one or two regrets about staying. He did have the option to go to Arsenal, as I understand, a couple of years ago. So maybe he's thinking, maybe he knows something, or maybe he's just off to Saudi for a year to, you know, to bang in a few goals. But yeah, look, I wouldn't. Look, if he came out, I wouldn't be against it, and I just, you know, haven't even thought about it until you mentioned it. But I think
so long as he's not the only one, you know,
that would be the issue. That'd
yeah.
be the issue. I mean, I think it goes without saying that United need at least two strikers and to develop Obi as well, you know, for next season. It's a peculiar summer. It reminds me of that '95 summer, you know, whereby there's going to be people coming in, and I think there'll be one or two surprises. I don't think, obviously Bruno's not going to go, but I think it'll be a weird one. And one thing that I'm always complaining about, and I don't know how you lads feel, is we never seem to go for the obvious choice. We never seem to go for the Kane. We never seem, like, even talking years ago, even with Shearer, you know, there was a big mock-up of Shearer in the United kit in '96. He never came. There's been so many of those, and we've gotten away with it because, especially when we bought York, and then when Cantona left Sheringham, and you know, and in recent years we've missed out on 3 or 4 very obvious strikers that should have came. Jude Bellingham, midfielder, you know, you had him. He was at Carrington. He had the walk around. He met Cantona and Robson. Why are we missing out on the obvious choices? Is it just about money? It has to be just only about money that they're not signing.
Money is a huge factor to today's players, it seems. Loyalty to clubs isn't seen as a big thing anymore. We got away with it for so long because the history of United made players that were passionate about the game want to play for us. And I still think there's a bit of that for United, and I think that's why Cuniha will come to the club. He apparently wants to play for United regardless. And so that's why I'd be excited about him coming, because we need players that want to play for on the jersey. We've had too many friggin' mercenaries turn up at the club, rob us of wages for years and not justify anything on the pitch, you know.
We still have a few of them at the club now, stealing the wage.
Okay, so another thing that I wanted to bring up with you was the obvious Rashford thing, which isn't going away. Like, what's best for Man United and what's best for Rashford going forward now? Does he have a place? Should he have a place? Because there's a good chance he may come back training at least with us. He'll be there. Like, we're going away in a friendly a few days after the end of the season, and Rashford will be part of that squad if he's not so. So how do we feel about that?
His attitude will need to change under Ruben. I think that's the main thing. No one can question that he's a decent footballer and has the potential to be a great footballer, but he hasn't shown it this season. So much so that Ruben was willing to leave him go on loan. And has the relationship broken down? Don't know. Only time will tell. I know Ruben has said in an interview everyone that's on loan will be coming back to make a decision on whether they get sold or not. So I would not be surprised if he's sold. If a decent offer comes in for him, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I'd be kind of aligned with that. It's hard to see how he gets back into the squad long term. You know, I know he's supposedly playing well at Villa. He's not exactly lighting the place on fire or anything, but
it's 3 goals and 15 starts, lighting the place on fire.
Yeah, well, it's better than Highland, I suppose, isn't it? But yeah, no, look, I think as Dec said, it's his attitude really. Now, I know you never know what's going on in someone's personal life, but you know, I think it's like as if the pressure from media over the last 2 years has kind of gotten to him, and you know, from the outside looking in, it looks like he kind of wants to be the celebrity more so than the footballer now. And you see him turn up at games and he's head to toe in all his designer gear and stuff. But I don't know, maybe that's played a factor in it, but the last year at United, he definitely kind of he pulled back on the reins in training and obviously in matches as well. So unless that changes, I can't see him coming back long term.
I knew the writing was on the wall when he did his own interview that time. Jumping the shark and putting something out without running it by the club, which was very, very unusual, and that showed that. Look, I'll say what I said even last season when we were talking about him. I do like him as an individual, and he's done more in his life for humanity than I will ever do. But the reality of it is that his head's been turned. Even the way that even when he was at United most recently, he was heading off to the States on a few days when he had a few days off, and that just goes to show that his head is not in the preparation to prepare like an elite sportsman. Like LeBron James is not going off watching Liverpool with 2 days notice, even though he's a minority shareholder. You don't see him. Yeah, I mean Marcus is. I mean, clearly he has something to offer, but I think the biggest issue that Rashford has is that he needs a new challenge. And although going to Aston Villa was surprising to some, I mean they were progressing in the Champions League and they're playing well under Emery, and Emery seems to value his services and was picking him over Watkins. So there has to be something to be said for him. He also got back in the England squad as well. So. Me personally, I just don't see enough in Marcus's performances from what I've seen. Like even against PSG, he was non-existent in the first half, but then in the second half he had a good 20-25 minutes, and there was talk of Marcus Rashford being elite top 10 players in the world at some point. You're not seeing that now with Villa, and you weren't seeing that with us last season. So I can't see a route back for him because he was a bit disrespectful to the manager, and once you do that, you're surplus to requirements, I think. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I mean, it's well documented now, all the stuff that's gone on off the pitch, and personally I can't see that side of it changing. The whole thing of going to the States and going to Belfast and all these things that he seems to be doing off the pitch. It's, on one hand, you could say once it's not affecting his game, his training, once it's not affecting his performances on the pitch, then, you could argue, yeah, it's fine. Look, he can do what he wants in his spare time. But when it's affecting his performances, which were non-existent to a certain extent in a lot of the games, then it's, unfortunately, I think it's curtains on his United career. And like you said, he needs a new challenge, and maybe he needs to step away from that limelight that comes with being a United player. The question is, I suppose, is where does he go? I think he came out, didn't he, during. Well, there was a news report anyway that apparently he said he's going to wait until the summer to make a decision on where he's going to sign or where he's going to play football next season. But to me, that sounds like he's just waiting for one or two clubs to come in for him in particular. Maybe it's a Barcelona or a PSG, maybe, I don't know. But I think...
Yeah, even the rhetoric of him saying that shows an arrogance that he wouldn't have used a couple of years ago. Like he is an incredibly valuable asset. I think what happened is that stellar season that he had has gone to his head. I mean, if Barcelona or PSG, if PSG wanted him, he'd be playing for them now.
Yeah, that's true.
And look, maybe there is a bit of a love affair with Barcelona, and they do rate him and they want him, but they can't afford his wages, so that's why he's not at Barca. So I don't know. I wish the lad well. I just think that he's made some poor decisions, and I think he's been advised poorly.
Yeah. He has the wrong people around him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at when you're a little bit older in life as well, you realise and kind of look back on your life, even on, in layman's kind of terms and in normal circles. And if you surround yourself with the wrong people, you can lose a lot of time doing the things you're supposed to do with your life,
Yeah.
And I think that's a case with him. I wish him well, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't want him back if he's only going to be, diminishing returns like we've seen with Aston Villa. And Gorka looks like an exceptional player, but I think that there's some issues that we don't know there that are only going to come to light, I think, next year or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe Ruben has some sort of deal for him, or explored that fact, or maybe that was part of it, where there was some sort of gentleman's agreement that they can have Ruben, but they can't have him. Who knows? I'd like to see him. He is a goal machine, but again, there's that kind of thing about if he comes to United. Really, it's about a mentality issue about anyone that we sign, and that's why I think that Osherman would be a good striker, because his and someone made a comment about Osherman and said if you thought Pogba was bad, you'll see the very worst in Osherman straight away, because he's very like that. But who gives a shit if he's scoring?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care if he's an egomaniac, as long as he's putting the ball in the back of the net every single game at least once.
Yeah.
I don't care. You put up with anything. It's like the Dwight York stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
Like Yorkie had, by all accounts, incredibly well liked by everyone, but he got away with a lot on his behaviour and his high opinion of himself, because he was doing the business for United,
Yeah.
And apparently at every club he ever went to. So, if we can get the difference between Pogba and Osherman in that regard is that Pogba was injured a lot and wasn't producing the goods week in, week out. I just want to bring up the semi-finals, the away leg and the home leg. I'm not feeling as confident about it now because of the Wolves game, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But how are you feeling about
it? Look, you'd have to be confident after. I know when you look back at the Lyon game, there's a couple of ways you could look at it. Like, obviously the comeback was amazing. Shouldn't have had to get to that. We were 2-0 up and we were cruising. But yet again, we took our foot off and let him back in. But I think the players know how important the Europa League is for next season, not just in terms of having European football, but in terms of the money that comes with it. Getting into Europe, what that money will mean for new signings and making the squad better. I think they'll be up for it. Obviously, look at Athletic Club they're probably going to be tougher than Lyon, I think. They've been playing very well, but yeah, look, you'd have to be confident, wouldn't you? We can do it.
I feel better that Ahmad's back, or potentially back for those games.
Yeah.
That could be huge for us, because we just, with Xerxes gone, I felt that any little bit of hope that we had was all relying on Bruno's shoulders,
Yeah.
And now with Ahmad coming back, I'm feeling more confident about that. And we said this, and this came up in previous episodes. The reason why the Europa League suits us is because we've an extra second or two on the ball, in the same way Anthony has a second or two extra on the ball in La Liga.
Yeah.
Question is, we have to be very blunt about this. Are Athletic Club better? Are they better than us right now?
You'd have to say yeah. Well, but
I mean, look, nobody's in European competition. Nobody's a pushover at this stage in the semis, but I'd be concerned if we can get out of Spain without getting spanked.
Yeah,
there's always a chance that we're liable to do anything at Old Trafford and get a result. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, the crazy thing is that we're still the only unbeaten team in Europe. How, I don't know, but there's definitely something about the competition this season. Like, we've, obviously at times we've deserved our results. Other times we've snatched it at the death. Whether it's a draw or a victory, but Yeah, I think if we can go over there and just keep it tight, maybe even snatch a late winner, but I think we need to be coming out there with it at worst or at best a draw. We'd have a chance,
Yeah, I'd say that if that's when the likes of the experience of Casemiro, who would have thought, particularly over the last 2 or 3 months, is really upped his game. He looks a bit lighter. I think he's he's been, I wouldn't say standout, but he's certainly not the player that we United fans wanted on the scrap heap. End of last season, start of this season. So fair play to him for proving the doubt was wrong. And I have to credit to Harry Maguire as well for
absolutely
just showing what a great old pro he is, in the best possible sense. And who knew that he was our fucking star centre forward?
Yeah, yeah. I know, it's mad, isn't it? When he comes on, did he have in the 15 minutes he played up front? Did he have more chances? Yeah, more XG than Highland did in 90 odd minutes, or whatever it was. That's crazy. I honestly don't know what Highland can do to improve it, because there's times when you watch him and he's making the wrong runs, and he's either run the wrong direction, either run to the front post and the ball is being played to the back, or he tends to be dropping deep then and getting involved in stuff where you're like, you're the centre forward, get up there. By the time the ball is up in the box, you're halfway between the centre line and the 18-yard box. You're the one that should be in there getting on the end of the chances. But as well as that, and I'd say, to me, honestly, it's like a catch-22, because he makes the wrong runs at the wrong times. The other players then don't know when to play it to him, because he's not making the right runs. And then when he does and he gets the ball, like there was a game there early on the season, it was I can't remember who played him in, but it was clean through. You would have put your money on him scoring, and he kind of fluffed the chance. So there's a bit of both. The fact that he's not making those right runs, so the likes of Delo, when he's forward, Garnacho, they're not willing to gamble on giving him the chance when they can take a shot, to the detriment of the team then as well, because you see Garnacho is always looking to cut inside and take on the chance himself, But look, I think that's why I think if we get another strike, even if it was only one striker that we got in, taking the pressure off Highland, I think you could see a different Highland next season if that pressure is taken off him. But again, like you said earlier on, there's a good chance he could go out on loan as well.
Yeah, look, everybody's a fan of Highland, and he said on the one of the other episodes, he's like everyone's favourite nephew. When he walks in, everyone goes, "Oh, look who it is!" But that's not going to win you games. I mean, the reality is that you don't have to like your players. You don't have to. He doesn't even have to be liked by his own team, as long as he's doing the job. We need a Van Nistelrooy who's just selfish. Give me the ball, peg gun, back in the net, bang, 1-0 up, let's go. And we need to be ruthless. We need to be less forgiving of our, because it just, and I say this time and time again on this show, it's in any other top 4 or 5 clubs in the world, they wouldn't put up with what we put up with.
No.
Players would be dropped and moved on. They'd write off whole seasons and get rid of as many players as possible at Madrid or even Milan if it was going that bad. Although Milan are not what they were. You look at Barcelona, maybe a different scenario because of what they're going through with the financial fair play, etc., and rules, and the situation there. But when you're looking at Highland, he is coming way too deep all the time to get the ball, and then he's just being one of the lads on Talking the Devils always says about him, he's not engaging his core enough, where they're kind of, he's a strong lad, but he has that kind of Labrador-esque enthusiasm where he runs after unnecessary balls into the water, tennis balls, and they're like, stop doing that, pick your runs. Like he needs to. Like lest we forget, Hoyland scored 6 goals or 7 goals in 6 games last season.
He can do it.
There's a striker there. There is.
Yeah,
There's a proper forward there that can put the ball in the back of the net.
I think him being the only option has hindered him because he hasn't been able to not get a rest as such. It's not like he's been overran or overused, but the fact that there is no one else, it's all on him. And if he doesn't perform, then it's, your confidence level drops. And that's what he's going through at the moment. His confidence must be absolutely on the floor. Yeah.
It's a performance anxiety thing, It's just like anything else. I mean, if you're in any walk of life, if you're expected to be the top at something without the support and the structure around you need, even in business and management, if you're a salesman and you don't have the things that you need in order to, do your job properly, it's your mental health, your physical and mental well-being is going to suffer as a result of that. I just hope United don't ruin his career, which has happened to other players.
Yeah.
Talking about the human element and the person there, I hope he has the strength of character to sit it out and do whatever he needs to do to get his confidence back to score again. I think he'd be a perfect number 2 striker off a machine gun striker who just doesn't care, and just wants to score all the time. And he needs to figure out his game and become more of a Mark Hughes than a Harry Kane. Sit back, get the ball, play it off. I don't think his distribution when he gets the ball when it's played to him is very good either. It's better, but and Garnacho, you can tell, is just very frustrated. I just want to finish, I suppose, on a positive way. Obi won Cobby, and say that he's starting to look the player he was before he got injured last season. I don't necessarily go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he looks to have come back a lot stronger. He's kind of slightly bulked up since he's come back from the injury, which will definitely help him as well. Because I think that was one of the criticisms that he has when he's playing that midfield is he strong enough to deal with the bigger, stronger midfields and the bigger games, whereas he looks to be slowly, he's still 20?
Yeah.
There's still plenty of time for him to develop as a man as much as a footballer. So, but he's definitely, it looks like he's on the right track. He's becoming you can see he's becoming a man.
Yeah. He's beginning to believe. I just think United are stronger when he plays, and I'm a bit concerned about how Amorim views him. In one of the pressers, one of the lads asked Ruben. They were like, in terms of his progress, we're talking about a player that started the European Championship final. Yet you're using rhetoric and descriptive terminology about him like he still needs to develop. If you can start in a European Championship final, and if you can win an FA Cup final practically on your own, how does he need to develop? Why does he need to develop? Now, I understand he needs to fit into Amorim's system, but you'd have to say that out of the 3 starlets, including Garnacho, I believe that Kobbie Mainoo is the real deal.
Yeah,
in the long term, and I'd rather see Garnacho and Hoyland go and hold on to Mainoo than either of the other 2.
Yeah,
that's how strongly I feel he is, because he could become, our Jude Bellingham, the most important player over the next 10 years. I'd say.
Yeah. I think what's it's not so much what has hindered him, but with the likes of Garnacho and Mainoo, what can kind of hinder their development to an extent is how much they've been playing since they've got into the first team. And it's not just because they're top quality and they're a better option, but a lot of times you want your academy players coming in and kind of almost used sparingly at times, do you know what I mean? Rather than coming in and playing 30 games a season the first time they're in amongst the first team. But obviously, look, that second season under Ten Hag, the amount of injuries that we had, Garnacho was playing nearly every game, Mainoo was playing every game. So in terms of options, we had no other choice. But, sometimes that can hinder the development because the pressure is on him straight away to perform,
Mm-hmm. That too. But that's the thing. I mean, we have to just figure out our identity as a club again and go, Fergie always said, if they're good enough, they're old enough,
Yeah.
And we need to, I mean, Ten Hag, I like Amorim. I'm pro Amorim. I like what he's trying to do. I'm in that camp. I did put something up on social media and get absolutely bashed last week because I questioned whether or not any other manager would get sacked at this point in the top 4 or 5 leagues in the world. And the reality of it is that he probably would have. It's just that he's the right fit for this club at this time. And I think that had we have not had such a bad track record over the last 5-10 years, I think he would have been gone as well. But by virtue of a knee-jerk, ownership response as opposed to whether or not he's good for the club, I believe in what he's trying to do. In the same way I did Eric Ten Hag. The question is, and we all know this now, is has the club been correctly over during that time? It hasn't. And we know that now, and we know that it's not necessarily the manager's job. But Amorim needs that. We'll know a hell of a lot more about him at the end of next season.
Yeah.
And I do think we're going to win the Europa League. I do, because we're Man United, and we're never going to stop.
Exactly.
Exactly. Thanks a million, guys, for watching. Sorry, Dec had to dip out there. I think his house burnt down to the ground. But if you'd like to support the show, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can hit the like and subscribe button there. And there's a little QR code on the bottom there. Scan that with your phone if you have 2 minutes, if you're watching on laptop. If not, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Cult of Cantona. Buy us a cup of coffee. And we'll get you a pint or a cup of coffee if we see it out and about, or at United matches, or just down the pub, wherever you may be. More so, Brian, he'll do that if he sees you in Waterford. And I don't drink, so that's never going to happen with me. But if you'd like to support the show, subscribe, share, get involved in the comments and the debate. We also have a Facebook group for the Cult of Cantona where we share regular content as well. And until next time, enjoy what I'm sure will be a very, very tense match against Bournemouth tomorrow away. And we didn't talk about it because we're not confident about it. Brian, thanks so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
Good luck.